Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Wrestling Doesn't Make Sense, your favorite podcast on the internet that's about wrestling. We're going to talk about some stuff that happened that we think doesn't make any sense. And the one thing I think that we both want to talk about, the one main thing that didn't make any sense, is that the WWE released Zelina Vega.
Mm-hmm.
A few days after or before the recording of this podcast. That one took me by surprise. It really did, because I'm like, dude, she is so good.
Absolutely. And it seemed like she was getting a little bit of a push as well.
Yeah, she had a match against Asuka. When was that? Not so long ago.
Yeah.
But like, she's good. Like, they keep her on TV.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they are clearly kind of moving her out of the managerial kind of area and then into a more wrestling based area, because she's been a manager for a while. She was looking after Andrade in NXT. When was that? 2017?
Something like that. Yeah.
So she's been a manager for a while, and she's really good at it. Very, very good at getting heat, you know?
Mm-hmm.
She's a very good heel. So I was very surprised when I heard that they released her. I'm like, why? How could they do that? You know? What on earth? What terrible crime must Zelina Vega have done in order to be released? For them to look at her and say, no, your talents are just not what we need on this program right now. It must have been something pretty bad. You know, did she kill a guy? Because in that case, it depends which guy she killed. Maybe it was a bad guy. You know? That would have been justified.
Mm-hmm.
Do you happen to know what crime it was that Zelina Vega committed that would cause them to release her?
Apparently, she took a big shit in Vince McMahon's toilet, and he kind of blew his top when he found out.
Did she not flush it? Was that?
Yeah, she just left it sitting there.
How did he know that it was her?
Vince has like a CCTV camera on his toilet, so he can make sure.
Oh, that's grim. Because who else uses his toilet but him? Oh, what kind of videos are? Oh, that's a great start to the show. Thanks for that, Image. You have scarred everybody for life, man. If we didn't have any listeners before this, we certainly don't now.
Yeah.
Wow, Zelina Vega. Can we just, for the record, that is not true. That is not. I don't want Zelina Vega to be tarred with that brush whatsoever.
No.
We made that bit up. That was a funny bit we did. Although, like, the actual thing that happened is almost as comical. It's more ridiculous.
Yeah.
She got fired because she didn't close down her Twitch page.
Well, and she had opened up an OnlyFans account as well.
Yeah. Which, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, and, it's extra money in a, pandemic, which you can't really grudge someone for wanting to do that.
Well, here's the thing about OnlyFans as well, is that, like, that used to be, like, a really kind of pornographic website. But people now are using it more like kind of Patreon, like to subscribe to me and you can see stuff,
Yeah.
It's not, it's more family friendly than it used to be.
Yeah, it's mostly like cosplay and like swimsuit pictures and stuff like that now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can still get the porn if you want to. I've heard, but like it's also an area that I doubt the WWE are going to be dabbling in. I can understand them having their own Twitch account that they want their superstars to stream from.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And it also makes sense that they wouldn't want people streaming in Twitch while they're trying to finalize this deal with Twitch. Because there's all sorts of like wires being crossed there. However, opening up an OnlyFans is not a big deal. Like I said, I don't think the WWE are brokering a deal with OnlyFans, because that would be weird. you know. But
Yeah.
I don't. This one mystifies me. So they say that she was released to kind of send a message to other people.
Yeah, and the thing is as well, apparently she was making more on like her Twitch account than she was with her WWE contract.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the rumor going around at the moment that, um yeah, it was worth more keeping that side of her income coming in than wrestling for the biggest promotion in the world, which kind of says something about WWE's payouts and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, it seems crazy that they'd release a talent, someone who dreamed of being a WWE superstar and emulating her favorites when she was growing up and honoring her dad and stuff who passed away during 9/11 and all this kind of thing, where like it was such an emotional journey for her to kind of reach WWE and a hard fought journey, which she got knocked back time after time when she went to tryouts and stuff and had to go to TNA to kind of start getting noticed, and then kept knocking on the door essentially until The Rock gave her the opportunity to sort of be in that Fighting with My Family movie about Paige and stuff, and then she finally got what she was after, what she deserved, and got the shot with WWE, only for them to eventually turn around and do this to her. It's just, man, it's got to be heartbreaking.
Have you seen that film?
I have.
It's pretty good.
I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, I was like, this is gonna suck, and I was pleasantly surprised. That's The Rock, man. Guy can do anything.
Yep.
What a wonderful man. The Rock for president, please.
Yeah.
That's it, man. Like, she's put a lot of work in. It is crazy that she's making more off Twitch than she is for the WWE, especially. And I tell you what, I don't know if you've seen this, but Maria Bennett, Maria Kanellis, weighed in on this on Twitter. I follow her. She is wonderful. And she said a lot of this kind of stuff too. Like, it's ridiculous that a company that has been showing record profits this year because they're not touring and they're not spending money going on tour has not only released people in the middle of a pandemic, but also clearly isn't paying people enough. I mean, if they're getting more than they make in the WWE, which is their full-time job, on Twitch, and then they're asked to give that up, a lot of people, that's hard to walk away from. It's ridiculous. And I agree with her. It really is. It's very, I mean, it's a bit too much, isn't it? And the last time we talked about this whole Twitch situation, I can understand the WWE's point of view. Their business, they have to, like, it makes sense to organize things through the business,
Yeah.
But, then it does bring up the sticky situation of them being independent contractors and not technically employees, because you really can't treat independent contractors like this. They're independently contracted to you, but like it's independent, so they're still free to do, even if you want to disregard the fact that they're not allowed on other wrestling programs and whatever, like they're contracted even though they're independents, right? It doesn't really make any sense. I understand why they wouldn't be allowed to work for other wrestling promotions. That all makes sense. If you disregard that, like, it doesn't make any sense for them to stop any extracurricular stuff that they do, like running a YouTube page or a Twitch channel or any of this stuff. Like that doesn't make sense. I don't see why the WWE should like monetize everything about their employees' lives when they're not technically employees. Because first of all, that doesn't happen when you are an employee. You don't go to your job, right, and have your boss say, "Listen, man, I love your podcast on the internet. It probably makes £86 million a month. I want a cut of that because you work for me."
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be like, "No, fuck you." Well,
Absolutely, yeah.
you got dick all to do with this, right?
Yeah.
It's when I go to work, I do the work stuff that you pay me to do. But when I'm not at work, you don't have to have anything to do with this, you know? Like how many people I was gonna say like how many people went out and made their own music, like, you know, R-Truth and John Cena, but they probably had something to do with WWE somewhere. Like John Cena's music probably went through the WWE, whatever it is. You know, they probably have a brand for that.
Same with Elias as well, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah, but like if he wanted to release something himself, like on Bandcamp or whatever, like why couldn't he do that?
Yeah.
Like they did this whole thing with their real names and shit, right? That was part of the issue from last time. So like if Elias releases an album with the WWE called Elias, you know, here's Elias, this is his wrestling gimmick, I'm Elias, yada yada. And then under his real name recorded his own EP on his own time about his own stuff. Shouldn't he be allowed to do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, even if it's a little bit more risque than the family-friendly stuff that's on the WWE, if it's just like for his own, you know, if it's not clearly Elias, then I don't see what the issue is. And it's the same thing here. If Zelina Vega, what's her real name? Is it Zelina Vega?
No, it's something Trinidad, isn't it?
Thea Trinidad?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if she used that name on her OnlyFans and Twitch, like what's the harm? You know what I mean? Like I don't see any issue with that, because there's a difference between like making money off the WWE's intellectual property.
Yeah.
And like doing your own shit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get that bit. Like, yeah, that's clearly going a little bit too far. You know, it's the same with Paige. Paige, when she streams, she's not called Paige. She goes by her real name.
Yeah.
So like, I don't see whether there's an issue there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Should be one. So this is all like a real sticky situation. And then after Zelina Vega got fired or released, fired sounds too harsh to say. She posted a thing on Twitter that said, "I support unionization for wrestling," which was wonderful.
Oh yeah.
But that caused a whole wheel of conversation, the kind of conversation I'm sure Vince McMahon didn't want anybody to be having. So before the results of the American election, we had talked about Andrew Yang potentially stepping in if the Democrats won the election, which thankfully they did. Or did they? They definitely did.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, if you go by the numbers, then yes, they did. If you wanna look at facts, but as we all know, the last 4 years have had a disturbing lack of facts. So, but yeah, we suspected that if the Democrats won, Andrew Yang would probably be able to investigate the WWE a bit, which Vince McMahon probably doesn't want. And now with this Zelina Vega thing, a lot more attention has been put onto the fact that wrestlers aren't unionized and don't have a union. Who was it? What was the people that you said were getting in touch with her?
It was the Screen Actors Guild who sort of put out a statement just to say that wrestling is, about media as much as it is sports. So that means that they're going to try and engage with any wrestlers who want to kind of talk to them and see if they can find ways to help protect the wrestlers. So they've got more kind of power against these kind of decisions that WWE kind of puts down on them. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if anyone takes them up on that, because like you can go back like 30, 40 years where Jesse Ventura was like the guy who was trying to start a union back in the day, and quickly got shot down, and like no one took him up, and or took up the fight with him or anything. So I think all of that is pretty much to do with like people don't want to rock the boat too much, because they are getting paid. WWE are their employers, even if they don't like to be called that. But yeah, so it's like, how do you implement this change without like completely upending the wrestling business? Because it's not just WWE who kind of have that independent contractor tagline. It's everyone.
Exactly. I wonder if Andrew Yang knows that, because I know he's a wrestling fan. But it isn't just the WWE that do this. And funny enough, like this really started happening in the 90s during the Attitude Era with the war between WCW, because that's when the idea of like guaranteed money and exclusive contracts started to be bandied around. Exclusivity and locking people into contracts for big money and all this stuff. Like that wasn't really heard of before that. And in the 90s, that kind of muddied the waters, because they were still technically independent contractors, but now with all these new fancy exclusive contracts that were worth big money, so people weren't complaining about them, it made them exclusive. It made them employees, essentially.
Yeah.
So that became the conundrum. I know that Hall and Nash made a lot of money, and rightly so. I mean, if fucking Ted Turner's just handing that shit out, fucking take it. Fair enough. But like now, I would imagine they would also be like, yeah, independent contractor isn't the correct term, really. They were employees.
Yeah,
work for the company. Yeah, dude, this is really this is really interesting. Because all through our lifetime we've heard this independent contractor line, and if they were independently contracted, can you fire an independent contractor?
Well, the funny thing is, like, the independent contractors can't seem to quit their jobs. Like, they can try and like ask for their release and stuff, and then you've got WWE like refusing to release people, which is nuts. Like, if I wanted to quit my job, I'd hand in my notice, and however long that was, I'd work that, probably not very hard, but then at the end of that notice, I'd walk away, and there's nothing they can do to stop that. So how WWE can deny people, or even like the ability just to quit a job, is completely baffling.
That's a great point. Like, how does that work? People ask to be released, and they're refused that somehow. Because I've never really heard, like, the more you think about it, the less that makes sense. I haven't heard about that. Like, every job I've ever had, I could just quit. They don't lock you into this shit, and that's just you being a regular employee. So, like, the legalities of that don't make any sense either.
Yeah.
So this is all like very, very interesting to see this all kind of come out. And you mentioned a very good point about they're going to need a lot of support from the wrestlers themselves, and the issue is going to be that the wrestlers who aren't getting paid the same as the main event talent and aren't getting the same benefits are going to want to unionize.
Yeah.
Well, some of them are, right? Here's where the issue lies. The main event guys in all companies, All Elite Wrestling, TNA, MLW, WWE, they're all main event guys, so they're all getting main event money. They're in a top spot. So if they rock the boat, God knows what's going to happen, right? So
Yeah.
they're going to say, we don't want to unionize because we're comfortable where we are. I mean, it might sound like a very selfish position, but also, like, you do still have to look out for yourself.
Yeah.
It's a tricky situation, right? The real issue there comes from the underneath guys who want that main event spot. This is the same kind of thing that I see in, like, the government. This is why I don't think that will ever change. Because while you'll have people who do want the change, to see the system change, you have the guys at the top who don't want to see the change, and then you'll have the guys in the middle who want what the guys at the top have. And if they change the system, then that means they're not going to get that anymore.
Yeah.
So they're going to play the game in order to get the advantages. And that's why the system never changes, because there's too many people who want the good prize at the end. And of course, the trick in both politics and the WWE is that the prize at the end is really good. Really, really good. In WWE, the prize is you get paid more, you get on TV all the time, you get all this merchandise, you get the belt, you get, all sorts of, like, promotion for you as a person. It's huge. It's really, really big. I mean, you could even say Zelina Vega, she's not, when she was in the WWE, wasn't in, like, a main event spot.
No.
But at the same time, was able to use her popularity on TV to garner, like, a large Twitch following, right? I'm not saying that that's the only reason she has a large Twitch following, but you know what I mean? Like, that exposure helps get you over with a new audience.
Yeah.
And just by doing that, she was making more than she was in the WWE. So can you imagine what, like, AJ Styles is bringing in, for example? Yeah, right. That's a big old change. I don't know, man. It's all very, very interesting. While I would like to see things change, like I said, I think there's just too many people who, for good or for bad, just, don't think that change will benefit them in the short or the long term. And I don't think Andrew Yang himself can do anything. He's going to need that support. And the same with the Screen Actors Guild. They're going to need all that support from the people. And just because of the way the system has been set up, it's so deep rooted. It's so hard to change anyway, on purpose. Obviously they don't want people to change the system because it works perfectly for the people it works perfectly for. They're gonna need a lot of support, and I don't know if they'll be able to get it all.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna be really interesting to see how that plays out. And good luck to Zelina Vega. Hopefully, she can do whatever she wants now. You know what I mean? Like, literally, she's great at what she does. She could get jobs in the media, in movies, on TV, like acting gigs, easy. If she just wanted to keep on Twitch, she could do that too. And
if she wants to go to another company and keep wrestling, then there's always that option as well.
Exactly. All Elite Wrestling were promoting the fact that they allow people to have their own Twitch pages and stuff. And Impact do that too. I think pretty much every other company from the WWE would allow that, right? I think that's fair to say. So yeah, if she wanted to go back into wrestling, I could totally see her taking a break from it though. You could see why this whole experience would leave a sour taste in one's mouth.
Yeah, it makes you kind of wonder as well if this is going to have like a knock-on effect with Aleister Black, maybe, because obviously he's Zelina Vega's husband, and rumor has it he's not been too happy with his position on the main roster and was actually angling to get sent back to NXT so he could be featured a bit more and get to showcase his talents and wrestle the kind of matches that he wants to wrestle and all that kind of thing. But apparently Vince turned him down, and yeah, he's kind of stuck in no man's land really at the moment, not really doing much of anything, and just stuck in the middle of the card.
Right, but he's not even on TV that much. He's not featured as much as a guy like Aleister Black should be featured.
Yeah. Oh, definitely not.
Good God, no. So Again, if he wanted to try and take a break, I would totally dig that too. But like you said, he can't really just go and quit, which he
Yeah,
should be able to. You know,
absolutely.
what was that story? I heard this story years ago about Terry Funk, and it was a Survivor Series. Terry Funk. Have you heard this story? There was some Survivor Series where Terry Funk was supposed to be on a team. I think he was on like Jerry Lawler's team or something.
Right.
So this is the early 90s, and I don't know what happened. I think that Funk was gonna lose or something. I don't know what happened. The Funk got to the building that day and realized that he was gonna lose, or realized whatever it was he realized. So he just like wrote a note to Vince McMahon and put it on his office door, and the note said, "Hey, sorry Vince, one of my horses is really sick and I have to go look after it. See you later." And he just went home.
What the
Oh.
fuck?
Oh God, can you imagine if you could quit your job like that? And they just let him go, because why not? But you can't even quit in fun, creative ways anymore because they don't let you leave. Like, how weird is that? Ah, man,
Yeah.
it's a very, very strange situation.
Pretty
I'll
nuts
survive.
that Terry Funk got brought back to WWE after that then.
Yeah, but you remember how that went on.
Ah, yeah, I guess, yeah.
Wasn't exactly. I mean, I have fond memories of it, but it wasn't exactly the highlight of Terry Funk's career. Winning the tag titles for a day.
Yeah.
But at least he won them. With his best friend Cactus Jack. That was great shit.
I thought the result got overturned though, didn't it? Because apparently they threw him into the wrong dumpster.
Was it? I thought what happened was they beat the New Age Outlaws, and then the day after that on Raw, the Outlaws won the belts back.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah.
Maybe it was both. This would have been the Russo era, right? 98.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So I wouldn't put it past him. That guy and his ideas. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, Zelina Vega, crazy stuff. Hopefully, she's definitely gonna land on her feet. Don't worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we'll see some change, but I don't know. I wouldn't put some money on it.
Well, I mean, I probably wouldn't either, but like over here in the UK, we have seen like a few wrestlers hook up with Equity, which is like a sort of guild for like actors and people in the sort of creative arts and stuff. So like that was something like I don't really want to big up David Starr, but there was something that he kind of like was pushing for and encouraging other people to do. So I think after the speaking out movement, like there was like a lot of push for like as many independent wrestlers over here to sign up to Equity, and you get more protection for yourself, but it's also just it gives you a bit more I don't know what the right word is, like rights, I guess, to kind of challenge stuff if things aren't right, and be a part of like the process of coming up with like a code of conduct for professional wrestling and making sure that all the bullshit and bad stuff that's happened in the past doesn't keep happening in the future. So yeah, I mean, if that works over here, who knows, maybe it will inspire others to do the same over in America. But like you say, with how entrenched it is, like the system that we have at the moment, and obviously with the way WWE definitely don't want to change it when it's so beneficial to them, like you just kind of can't see it happening, really.
You bring up another good point about wrestlers over here like trying to figure out their rights. Boy, fucking Americans love their rights. It's all they ever fucking talk about. If they brought that point up, everybody would go for it. Like, you can't. Wait a minute. You're right. You're taking away our rights. That's not right at all. See how I cleverly like worked 3 different ways to say the word right into that?
Yeah.
I'm a fucking genius. But you know what I mean? Like, if you just simplify the argument like that, people are like, yeah, you know what? Our rights are being taken away. And if there's one thing Americans like, it's rights. I don't know. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Wild, man. Wild. All right. Do we have time to talk about anything else, or do you want to keep talking about unionizing wrestling?
Well, we've been recording for about half an hour, so we can talk about other stuff.
What else would you like to chat about? Should we talk about the
big title change? Or okay, All Elite Wrestling. Go for that then.
Well, do you want to talk about climate change?
I said title change, but
I thought you said climate change, and I'm like, all right, I guess we're talking about that now. Well, the title change I thought was stupid. Drew McIntyre won his championship back from Randy Orton after like a month.
Yeah.
When did he lose it? October?
Yeah, it was only a few weeks ago, yeah.
Yeah, what was the point of that?
Well, it's just one of those things they seem to do, like, pretty much every time Survivor Series rolls around, and they book themselves into a corner with the whole, like, champions from one brand facing off against the champions from the other. So, we've seen it before with, like, AJ Styles beating Jinder Mahal to win the title and then face Brock Lesnar, I believe it was. Then you had AJ kind of on the other end of it, where Daniel Bryan beat him and then ended up facing Brock Lesnar. Yeah, I'm sure there was another example as well, but yeah, and like I guess this is that. So Randy Orton against Roman Reigns just would not have made sense, not with the way, you know, they're both pretty strong heel characters. So I guess in that situation you kind of needed a babyface involved, but yeah, it's just weird that they took the title off Drew just to put him back on him for this one match, it seems.
Right, like I'm sick of them booking themselves into a corner.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, oh, this happens time and time again. Well, I'm fed up with this shit. Like, stop doing it. Like, you knew Survivor Series was in November. That's no surprise to them at all, because it's always in November. You know what I mean? Like, what a weird thing to do. I wouldn't have done that. I would have just kept it on Drew, because them putting it on Orton made it seem like they were angling for something at WrestleMania, right?
Yeah.
That's what I felt like. All right, they're setting plans to WrestleMania into motion. Fine. But then putting the belt back on Drew doesn't make any sense, because to me that just makes it seem like we're going to see more Orton versus Drew McIntyre. And, you know, I'm in two minds about that, because their stuff so far has been really good. Both Orton and Drew McIntyre this year have been great.
Oh, yeah.
You know, we said a lot about Drew McIntyre, but Orton's been putting on, quality matches as well. He was in the greatest wrestling match of all time.
Yeah, who can forget that?
That was this year, you know? So we all witnessed that slice of history. So it feels like they're just going to, like, would you be surprised if the month after Survivor Series they put the belt back on Orton?
I would not be surprised whatsoever, because I think, like we said before we started recording, it seems like one of those situations similar to like John Cena's latter years, where he's getting just more frequent title reigns rather than long title reigns, just to keep bumping him up in the the all-time rankings and get him closer to the record for the most number of title reigns, which, you know, I would not be surprised whatsoever if Randy Orton's the guy to break that record, but can't do that unless he wins and loses the title a few times. So, well,
first of all, it's gonna be Charlotte Flair that breaks that record.
Oh wow, yeah.
I mean, she's you know what? She's been on the main roster for like what 5 years, and she's already got 10 championship reigns.
Yep.
It's not bad going, dude. She must be pretty good. But again, like if you've won the belt 15 times, and you've lost the belt 15 times, you know, doesn't anybody remember that old adage? That like doesn't that just make you look like a big old loser?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like Kofi Kingston only lost that belt once, and he lost it to Brock Lesnar. That makes sense, doesn't it? So you know you could argue that Kofi Kingston is a better champion than Randy Orton.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, there you go. And he only needed to do it once. Because honest to God, I don't think they're gonna do it again.
No.
Which is a damn shame because Kofi's great, but no, I don't think they're gonna do that again. So yeah, I thought that was stupid. What?
Yeah.
I thought there was something stupider.
Go on then.
Do I have to?
I mean, it wouldn't be wrestling doesn't make sense without some sort of mention about AEW.
Okay. Well. All right. So Cody Rhodes came out and did an interview, and then a girl came out who looked pretty like she was pretty built.
Yeah.
You know, she's pretty jacked. I like that. And she cut this weird promo against Cody. Did you hear the promo?
Yeah, it definitely wasn't the best promo of all time.
Yeah, it was really strange. And then Brandy came out and just kind of like, you know, lit her up on the mic, which was strange. And then they almost had like a pull apart, but they didn't, which was strange. And the girl announced that Cody Rhodes is next up. Well, she didn't really say his next opponent.
No.
But she said that Cody Rhodes isn't the Giant Killer.
Yeah. She basically congratulated him on getting his name back, but said that he didn't have the balls to go by one name.
Oh, yeah.
And then said that the giant that Cody was talking about is the real star, and his name is Shaq.
Yeah. I'm like, what the fuck? But then Shaq didn't come out.
No, he made no appearance whatsoever.
Right. So, like, all of that just sounded like garbage.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it just, like, because Shaq didn't even appear, he didn't, like, appear in a backstage thing or, like, a pre-taped segment or anything that would have been like, that's right, Cody, I'm back, and I'm going to challenge you and your girl, Brandy, to an intergender tag match, right? Which is clearly what's going to happen here. And I say clearly, so that means that's not at all what's going to happen. But, like, you didn't get that, right? You just had a girl come out and interrupt Cody Rhodes and say, oh, by the way, Shaq, right? And then she had a fight with Brandy. And then Cody Rhodes got beat up by two different people. Right? Like, what? What?
Yeah, it was all pretty weird.
What the fuck was any of that? What? Who would be excited about seeing Shaquille O'Neal come into feud with Cody Rhodes?
Yeah.
I don't understand. Don't they already have a huge roster full of people Cody Rhodes could fight?
They do, and I guess like he's beaten most of them though as the TNT champion.
But isn't that wild? Like they've been on TV for a year, and he could be working like great storylines with those guys. Because if you work a really good storyline and at the end of it they go over Cody, then that's how you build up a new guy.
Yeah.
Isn't that the point with the Darby Allin thing?
Well, presumably, but then it wasn't like Darby beat him decisively or anything like that. It was essentially like a fluke roll-up. So
what? They treated it like it was legit.
Yeah.
They didn't even. Nobody has since then has said, "Oh, you got me by a fluke roll-up." They're like, "Yep, gonna be fair and square," even though it kicked out of your finish. Like, You already got me about this because like the best thing about this segment was it just kept going, right? So after that
Yeah.
fucking nonsense, that just weird ass shit with Shaquille O'Neal, he wasn't there. Brian Cage and Taz's group, Ricky Starks, they started to beat up Cody Rhodes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they get scared off by Darby Allin's music.
Yeah.
Like they stop beating up Cody because Darby Allin's coming out. So like there's three of us. So we gotta protect ourselves from Darby Allin, who Brian Cage could eat.
Yeah.
Not even like look at the size of Darby Allin versus Brian Cage, right? So Darby Allin comes down to the ring in his thumbtack jacket, which they made a really big deal of trying to point out as if that does any fucking damage to anybody. So there's a bit where Darby Allin comes to the ring and he like goes after Ricky Starks, right?
Yeah.
And Cody Rhodes is in the corner because the heels were beating him up, right? You following me so far?
Mm-hmm.
And Brian Cage, because remember the numbers are in the heels side. Brian Cage is just standing there watching Darby Allin beat up Ricky Starks. What the fuck, man?
Oh dear.
And then then Darby Allin hits both of them. He just runs into them with his jacket with thumbtacks on, and they sell it like it's a big deal. What? What was any of this?
The whole thumbtack jacket thing is just it's more of like Darby trying too hard to look like, like a daredevil or a like I don't know, someone who's dangerous or whatever. It's like, dude, you're just some skinny guy with bad tattoos and bad face paint. You're not like a scary dude or anything.
Right, but like they could do it if they wanted to. But like again, that's the case of them not filtering anybody's ideas coming into play again. Like if they had a guy to work with Darby Allin and say, all right, I get what image you're trying to go over here. Let's try to get that image over. But like, you don't get like a cool tough guy image by like just having a flamethrower or being hit by a car or like rolling down a skate ramp. Was it in a body bag?
Yeah.
Like that's like not only is that not cool, that's just not something that people do. Like if you were walking up to a guy and you're like, I'm gonna show you just how tough I am, and then you climbed into a body bag and rolled down a half pipe, that guy's not gonna say, "Well, you're really tough." He's gonna say, "What the fuck did you do that for?" Right?
Yeah.
And I think that's Darby. Like Darby Allin seems like a good young kid, right? And if you used him right, he could be really, really good as like this little underdog face. And he's he gets over with that alternative crowd. All of this shit could work, and it totally could work, right? But like if you just let him go out and then jibber jabber and do whatever he wants, it's not gonna get over right because it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't help his character get over. It just makes him look strange.
Yeah.
And not strange in like an alternative way. Strange is in dude, you filmed yourself getting hit by a car. Like, who takes that guy seriously? And especially because he's a wrestler and he looks smaller than everybody else. Like, the gimmick's already built into him.
Yeah.
And it works with him being a kind of like depressed like kid, with that emo kind of side, because then he can use that as fuel and energy, and that could be really cool. But it's not. It's really strange instead, because who gives a fuck about dude? You've seen punks, right?
Yeah.
How many punks have you seen? And I've seen punks too. They have these big leather jackets with like huge ass fucking metal studs on them. And I mean like they're not metal studs. They're like fucking
spikes.
Right. They're like 3 inches, 4 inches long, right?
Yeah.
All over their jackets. But if you ran into a punk, that's not gonna hurt, right?
No.
I mean, it could jab your eye out or whatever, but like you'd be all right. They look way more intimidating than just a jacket with thumbtacks glued to it, right? So then you have the image of, like you said, it seems like Darby Allin's trying too hard sometimes. Well, like if you just got a guy who's like, look how cool and punk I am, I just got a black jacket and glued some thumbtacks to it. Doesn't that just totally make him look like a poser.
Mm-hmm.
Makes him look like the fucking, remember like Steve Buscemi, like, how are you doing, fellow kids?
Yeah.
Skateboard, with the skateboard. God,
Yeah.
that's exactly what he. Oh, that really got me. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
All right, I don't know how to follow that up. So yeah, dude, that was weird. That whole thing was just strange,
Mm.
you know. And God knows we call out WWE for weird, strange stuff that they do, which we don't like. We're like, just wrestle for God's sake,
Yeah.
right? Just have two wrestle boys having a wrestle. You know? Walter versus Ilya Dragovich, beautiful, lovely stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, it's on NXT UK that fucking nobody watches. You know, and instead we get fucking, I don't know what the fuck we get in the main roster.
Oh dear.
It's a size all around, you know. But hey, on the plus side, Survivor Series is coming up, and it almost certainly won't suck.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but
How could it possibly suck?
I mean, well, what's the card? We've got Team Raw versus Team SmackDown, where
really cares.
I mean, half of Team Raw used to be on SmackDown, like as of like 6 weeks ago, whenever the draft was.
That was the thing. I was looking at Team Raw and I'm like, what, dude? Fucking Matt Riddle's on SmackDown. What the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, I didn't even fucking realize he was on Raw. I'm like, it felt like he was on SmackDown not that long ago. And like, I know the draft was a month ago, but I'm like, I don't know, man. It feels like. So I'm like, all right, this is Team Raw. You're right. Like, these guys have just turned up on Raw. How are they Team Raw?
They could have played it in a way where maybe like those SmackDown guys had a chip on their shoulder, and they could be like, yeah, we'll beat Team SmackDown and prove why we were too good for SmackDown in the first place or whatever. But instead they've gone this whole route with like the all five of them like essentially like fighting over who's the captain of the team and like doing the whole partners who don't get along type deal. So yeah, that's a recipe for disaster right there.
Yep, that's what it is.
We've also got the women's Survivor Series match where it's a bit shambolic because they've already taken out two of the people who were going to be on Team Raw, because I believe
because they're both fantastic wrestlers, so you could be utilized better. Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke, because Mandy Rose got injured and Dana Brooke didn't get injured, but they're like, fuck it, take her off anyway.
Yeah, pretty much. But the SmackDown side of things, they still haven't even put the full team together yet. Like, they've only got Bianca Belair, Ruby Riott, and Liv Morgan announced so far. So,
which is dumb, because wouldn't you immediately make Bayley the team captain of Team SmackDown?
Yeah, exactly. You would have thought so.
Like, straight away, keep her momentum going and say, I may have lost the title, but you know what? I'm going to lead SmackDown to victory because I was the SmackDown Women's Champion for a whole year. I'm the best. Screw Sasha Banks. She can have the belt. I'm Team SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
Easy. Right?
Yeah.
Well, we've got one more SmackDown until Survivor Series, so maybe.
Well, I'm presuming there's going to be some sort of movement on that front, but who knows? We've also got the US champion Bobby Lashley against the Intercontinental champion Sami Zayn, which
I think that'll be really good.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a match we've seen quite a bit, like a few years ago, back when Sami just turned heel and he was like feuding with Bobby Lashley a lot on Raw.
Was that last year?
No, that must have been at least 2 years ago, I'd say.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, at least the dynamic's a bit different now. What would Bobby Lashley having the Hurt Business behind him, and Sami Zayn, like, I'd say doing some of the best work of his career right now.
He's great, man. Yeah.
Yeah. What else have we got? We got the tag team title match where it's the New Day versus the Street Profits, but Like, it was only a few weeks ago after the draft where they pretty much just swapped their titles around. So
Yeah. Next.
and then you've got the women's title. The Raw Women's Champion Asuka versus the SmackDown Women's Champion Sasha Banks, which I'm sure will be a very good match. But I mean, again,
we've seen that one 3 times already this year.
At least, yeah.
Mm. Yeah, you're right. It'll be great, but also, yeah, we've seen that a lot.
And then we got the main event with Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns. So,
which again, I'm sure will be a fine match.
Yeah.
You know? It's just that a lot of the build isn't there.
Mm-hmm.
We can agree with that. Some of these matches sound great, but like the build on this show has been pretty shitty.
Oh yes,
I'll agree. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see how that turns out. We might talk about it next week, or maybe something crazy will happen.
Yeah.
Good to see that Retribution once again not booked for the show.
Well, they'd only lose anyway, wouldn't they? So it's probably a good thing.
True. All right. Anything else you wanna say before we wrap things up?
The only thing I can think of is if you want to learn more about the whole shadiness of the independent contractor tag, I think there's a segment from Last Week Tonight by with John Oliver from a few years ago now, which is on YouTube, I believe, where they like spent 20 minutes just like covering how it's all bullshit basically, and definitely worth checking out if you don't really know the situation and want to kind of learn more about it.
I agree. There we go. So if you want to learn more about that, check it out. It is very interesting. And we're gonna be hearing more about that, I'd say, pretty soon,
Yeah.
Also, I want to say that by the time this episode goes up, we've put a new show out on the channel. We put the first watch along, where me and Corey watched In Your House #1. It's on the channel now. So if you guys want to play along, watch the show, and then press play when we press play. It's a bit all over the place, as you would imagine, but it's still fun. And you and me, we recorded an episode with Corey that'll go up in a couple of weeks probably.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're gonna do some more. We're gonna do more with the three of us. So check that out if you like that kind of thing. And if you don't like that kind of thing, just play it anyway, but put the sound down.
Yeah.
That really helps us out, That's about it. Let us know what you guys think about Survivor Series. Let us know what you guys think about Zelina Vega and this whole mess, because I think that there's a lot to be said, and there's a lot more that's going to be said in the next couple of weeks and months. Yeah. And then other than that, I guess we will see you guys in the next episode. So subscribe and like us and all that fun stuff. And we will see you in the next episode. So goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.